The spot, a little taste might help a lot. It may be nice, it may be not. In my condition, this is a risky proposition. One little taste might pave the way. It has been known.
Hi, this is Ibrahim Maalouf. I'm a trumpeter, composer, pianist, and producer. And we are here in Stalwarts of Music with Aditya Veera.
Hi, Ibrahim. Namaste. Welcome to Stalwarts of Music with Aditya Veera Season 3. It's such an incredible privilege to have you on the show.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I see that you are in a hotel room in Paris. So what's special? What's happening in Paris right now?
Well, actually, I'm not exactly in Paris. I'm in Lyon. It's
Okay.
another big city in
Yeah.
France.
Yeah.
I had a show yesterday evening, and I'm waiting for my plane this afternoon to go to Pau, which is another city in France.
Okay.
And I'm actually right now in a tour. And Paris is fine. So many things happening, music
Yeah.
and all kinds. Yeah.
What was your show like last night, and what was it? How were you received in terms of the music from last night?
Yesterday was a very different show than what I do in general. It's a specific program that we built together, my wife and I,
Okay.
around French songs. My wife is a singer. Her name is Hiba Tawaji, and
I'm
she's
aware.
very well known in the Middle East and in the Arab world.
Yeah.
And we decided together to pay a tribute to French song and French songwriting. So we did a program with a symphony orchestra, and we did this
Wow.
in a beautiful room in Lyon called Amphithéâtre 3000. It's like a 3,000 seats, beautiful, very beautiful acoustic place with a symphony orchestra.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
I have a very interesting agenda, like I mentioned earlier. So let's just dive right into it.
Yeah.
Right? So, speaking of your musical pursuit, from the information that I gathered, you had a love-hate relationship with your instrument during the early days, from the age
Yeah.
of 7, when your dad taught you the nuances of playing traditional music of your motherland, with a lesson every day until 17, where you joined the Paris Music Conservatory. So, what does Lebanon mean to you beyond being the source of inspiration and the music you play today?
Well, first of all, my love and hate relation with trumpet,
Yeah.
because it's an important point for me. I built my relationship with trumpet based on my father's love for this
Yeah.
instrument, and
Yeah.
seeing him loving it so much and expressing himself so well and building his career and his family life
Mm.
around it made me curious about it when I was a young boy, and that's what made me want to, play trumpet and be close to my father and spend time with him. Now it's much better. My relation with trumpet is much better, but still, yeah, it comes from here. And my origins are very, very important for me because
Yeah.
I really um, I feel that I'm a mix of things, you
Mm.
know,
Mm.
and the fact that I come from a Christian family in the middle of an Arab world,
Yeah.
living between the Arab and the Middle East and Europe, makes it like a big, big, blurry mix of cultures.
Correct.
So the best way, to know where you are from and who you are and where you are going to, towards what your life is supposed to go. It's important to know your background and your family and your original culture.
Yeah.
So this part of my culture is extremely important for me. It's my mother language.
Mm.
I was born and raised in this culture, and now when I take my trumpet and I play, or when I go on the piano and I compose, this part of me is my inspiration, and the way I express it is in the mix of cultures.
Amazing, amazing. I really like how you emphasize on the cultural aspect and the whole idea behind how the importance that you give to the whole idea of tradition and the meaning and the essence of it, right?
Mm.
In terms of your pursuit. Now let's talk about another interesting topic as a follow up based on the previous point. Uh, in India, there is this whole idea of seeking blessings from your father or your guru. Guru is
Hmm.
essentially teacher, right?
Hmm.
So there are two kinds of blessings. There is a blessing in the form of grace from a guru or a teacher,
Hmm.
and there is more of blessings in the form of tangible insights and techniques or virtuosity that you may have inherited during your educational background, right? If we had a look at both of these, what do you think is your inheritance? Let's start with the inheritance from your father in terms of the blessings and all of that.
Uh, I think again, I think it's a mix of everything. I think that the place you are born, the kind of family you are raised into,
Yeah, yeah.
the kind of culture that surrounds you,
Mm-hmm.
surrenders you. Um, um, I think all this feeds you during your very early childhood,
Mm-hmm.
and you, in general, I think you grow up with a certain point of view on things and a certain perspective. If
Mm.
this perspective is very positive and very
Yeah,
optimistic and
yeah.
creative, then anything can become interesting for you. Like, even like this, it's just a sound, but someone who's creative will say, hey, I love this sound, let's sample it and make something from this, and
Yeah.
someone else would say, stop making noise, so depending on how your education is, but it's a mix of so many things: the blessings, the techniques that you've been taught, the point of view of your parents. When you look at them, there are things they will like, there are things they will dislike, and you don't have an opinion yet because you're too young. But the fact that you see them
Yeah.
hating something or loving something, it builds your perspective on things.
Mm.
The basic,
Mm.
the first ones and and on my opinion, it's all this that contributes to educate your creative part, your positive, and your ability to invent things constantly from nothing. Taking a piece of paper and do this can be music. Some people would say, "Oh, what can I do with this paper? This is just paper. Give me a real instrument." This perspective changes everything, on my opinion. So it's basically a mix between the education and the confidence we give you. How to believe in your creativity, and the technique that we teach you in a very serious way.
Speaking about the quest for perfection that every musician or every artist would love to have in terms of their pursuit, of course, this quest for perfection in music is a pilgrimage that you have personally drawn from your own music, right? So, in terms of your musical pursuit, or in terms of this endeavor, what do you search for when you play your instrument?
I would say freedom, but the freedom I'm seeking comes from the fact that for years and years and years and years, I've been only practicing and working on my technique and finding the best harmonies and working on culture, studying Bach and Beethoven and learning cultures. I even learned some African songs, some Indian songs, some Pakistani songs, some Chinese stuff, some South American Latin music, blues. I've tried to learn many 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 kinds of musics just to feed my culture. But once I have to express something, I want to be free of everything I've learned to try to be able to bring something that is on my own.
Amazing. That's a very, very beautiful thought. As you mentioned earlier, you spoke about virtuosity being one of the elements, in terms of your development, right? So, if I had to ask you in simple words, when does virtuosity transcend to become great music that we hear?
I think I don't want to talk for other people, right? I'm talking about myself.
Just about you, from your
I think my perspective is pretty much the same that what I was saying, which is that once this technique becomes totally free of judgment, then virtuosity becomes art. If sometimes virtuosity is not what we think. It's it's the values. It's like kindness. It's like love. It's like for me, it's like kindness. Let me give you an example. Like, if someone comes to you and says, "Hey, Adi, when you asked me this question, you said the wrong word." Some people might say, "Hey, that was rude. Why did he tell me this?" And some people would say, "Hey, that's so kind of him because he said the truth to me, so he respects me." The freedom that this person has is for me the real kindness. But someone who doesn't say anything, and you ask the question and you mix up your words, and he and looks at you and says yes, and doesn't say anything, that might be not nice at all. That might be even someone who's like watching and saying in his mind, "Oh, that's so stupid," but just smiling. So that's not kindness. You see? So this point of view that we can have, based on honesty and the freedom of saying things, on my point of view, makes everything different. So when it's about arts, if I follow this metaphor that I just did now, sometimes virtuosity is just playing one note with the best and most accurate way, on the right moment, not few milliseconds before, not few milliseconds later, just on the right spot, just one note. That's virtuosity. Sometimes it doesn't have to be the complexity of phrases and no, it doesn't have to be this.
Right.
What I mean is that the more you have freedom and the more you get rid of all the judgments around you,
Mm-hmm.
is when you know that even just one word can be sufficient to say what you have to say, what you need to say. And that's what I call virtuosity. And Miles used to say, why would I need to play 1,000 notes if only one is enough to touch your heart?
I also wanted to talk to you about the fact when I listen to some of your work, I am awed by it. Right. So if I had to ask you, how do you evaluate yourself? Are you floored by it and say, "Goodness, where did all of this lovely music come from?"
No, not at all. And to be completely honest, I don't even have the time
Yeah.
to think about this because I'm all
Mm.
the time. I'm a kind of a workaholic. I love what
Mm.
I'm doing.
Yeah.
I work on my music for months, years, sometimes.
Yeah.
I would say each one of my albums is approximately 3 or 4 years of work.
Mm.
If not more sometimes. So, and I just released my 19th album, which is crazy, right?
Wow. Wow.
19,
Yeah.
yeah.
It is insane.
Plus, yeah. Plus, I work a lot on different other projects
Mm.
besides. I've been composing approximately 20 movie soundtracks and
Mm.
working on albums of other artists and
Yeah. Yeah.
producing things. So obviously, I don't have time to think. And maybe thank you, God, or I don't know who, to letting me not think too much
Yeah.
and think about all this and just create, be free, be happy to create, because this world is getting completely crazy, and without music and without all those emotions and all
Yeah.
this beautiful energy, I
Yeah.
don't know if I would be happy to be here, so
Right. Right on.
you know.
Uh, Talking a little more about the music. I mean, the music is at a very high level, right? And people with certain sensibilities could appreciate it better. I mean, you might have a different opinion, right? So, how much of the music have you intellectualized
Mm.
throughout your process before passing it on and surrendering it to the whole intuition aspect, and thereby listening to us consumers to listen to?
Look, my way to work is usually to intellectualize a lot all that is around the music.
Hmm.
So what is it about? What what do I need to express?
Yeah.
With who I want to work?
Hmm.
Who are the people who I need to have with me into the journey that I'm gonna live? Um, what is the message? I think about this a lot,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes for months or years. But once I start composing and once I start working on it, I don't even know that I'm starting.
Hmm.
I don't even think about it. It comes just by itself because
Yeah.
I'm opening my heart to anything that comes in,
Yeah.
you know. So when I'm working on the first part of the creation, like how the music comes to me,
Hmm.
I try not to think at all. I try not to intellectualize anything. I
Hmm.
just take what the world feeds me.
Yeah.
And then there is a second part that is more intellectualizing, which is how to produce it.
Hmm.
So, how can I make this sound good?
Yeah.
What should I add? How should I record it? What kind of microphones I should use? Where should I change the key? Should I harmonize a lot or just a little bit? And these kind of questions. But this comes on the third part of my process. So there
Hmm.
is 4 parts in my
Yeah.
process: the
Yeah.
thinking, the thinking, the thinking.
Yeah.
Then just playing what comes
Hmm.
naturally,
Mm-hmm.
then producing it,
Yeah.
and then listening and choose. Like if there are things that I'm not happy with, I
Yeah.
just ditch it. If If there are things that I think need to be more worked on, then I work on it even more. And then, so I would say the key part is nothing but music, nothing but emotions,
Yeah.
no intellectualization at all. But all the rest, of course, you need to work on it and on the process. But I think I work this way again because I've been working a lot on the intellectualization of music for years and years
Yeah.
and years.
Yeah.
When I was young, I was born and raised in the intellectualization of music.
Correct.
So I grew up with this, so I don't need to think about it anymore when I'm composing. And if I think about it, I don't do anything. It's like a blank
Yeah.
paper.
Yeah.
you know
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, nothing comes because
Yeah.
I'm thinking.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm, mm.
Mm.
Very often, for any musician, there will be this mad rush of eureka in the middle of the night when a musical idea comes to them, and they would like to have it recorded right away in terms
Mm.
of their instrument or whatnot. So, what is your process like, or are you the more disciplined individual who would prefer working on it at 10 a.m. in the morning and say that I'm going to shut this now. I am going to get back to it at, probably in the morning. Yeah.
um that's an interesting question.
Yeah.
I think that I'm a mix between these two.
Mm.
So I have this rush eureka thing that you're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
I also have a wife and 3 children.
Yeah.
So so when the idea comes to my mind, I control myself. I write it down. I record it, and I sing it alone many, many times just to be sure that I will not forget it.
Mm.
And few minutes, few hours, few days, few
Yeah.
weeks later, I go in the studio,
Yeah.
and then I try to see. And the time between the moment you have the idea and the
Mm.
moment you record it is
Mm-hmm.
precious, because you can adapt many things. You can change things. It's not
Mm.
because it came from nowhere that it
Yeah.
has to be good. It's like when we're talking. Not everything that you think needs to be said, right?
Right. Right.
So it's exactly the same on my opinions. Sometimes there are things that you have in mind, you better not say it. It
Mm.
doesn't have to be said. It can hurt someone, it can harm people, it can be stupid. you
Yeah.
know
Yeah. Yeah.
and in music it's exactly the same. Sometimes, like, you have ideas, but you don't know. For example, sometimes it used to happen to me time ago, that I think that I have a great idea,
Mm.
and I go in a studio and I record it and I play it, and then a friend of mine says, "Hey, Ibrahim, this is the song we heard a few weeks ago on the radio, blah 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 blah." And I'm like, "What?" And I'm so stupid, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
if I would have taken more time, me and this melody, to
Mm-hmm.
share something, and not to rush to the studio record it, the melody would have came back to me, and, oh, this is the melody I heard.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I take my time now. Maybe it's age, I guess, that helps. I'm almost 44 now, and I think when you have more experience,
Mm.
that sometimes not all the ideas are good.
Fair. Fair.
Mm.
In terms of your music, what are some of the feelings, emotions, or moods you feel most comfortable in terms of communicating through the music?
I don't think I have. I mean, the, I might you might think I'm repeating myself, but I think maybe the ones where I'm feeling free. But
Mm.
sometimes you can be free in a very soft and tender kind of music. Sometimes you can be free with a very fast, something great because you need it.
Mm.
Sometimes you need something big orchestras
Yeah.
and feel that this is the right moment for it. So it's like if I always do metaphors to explain myself. But your question is very interesting, and I think it deserves to be asked. But in another way, it's as if I was asking you, what kind of people do you think you can be friends with?
Right.
Well, I can be friend with any kind of people. I don't have one specific one. Sometimes you have friends who are really careful, really loving, and they ask you, "Oh, let's go. Maybe do you want me to prepare something, maybe to eat?" And sometimes you just want people to just play PlayStation or go football with them. And sometimes, but the one who plays football doesn't like to cook, and the and the one you can play music with is not necessarily the one you want to have conversations with sometimes. And there are friends you want to have conversations with, but you don't want to cook or play football with them. You just want to share ideas because they are interesting. And so it's the same with music. I love playing jazz, I love playing classical music, and I love playing Middle Eastern music, but I love the mix of all this. I love hip hop. My previous album was a hip hop album. I love hard rock. I love all kinds of cultures, all kinds of music. So when I need one kind of music, I go towards this, and I try to spend time with this kind of music. But I feel good in any kind of music. And just to finish on this point, when I was young, we didn't have money at all at home, and I didn't have video games or anything. And since my parents were very conservative in a way, because we were, Lebanese people living in Europe, so it was like, don't go out. We need to stay together, and so it was something, protect. It was to protect us. It wasn't against anything. It wasn't mean or anything, but just they were scared. There was the war in our country. They were really scared that something happens to us, so we couldn't go to our friends, sleep over or stuff like this. And we didn't have video games. We didn't have, it was really like we didn't have money. And one of the only things that was my way to play was to put the old radio, the transistor radios that we had, take my trumpet in my room and just switch from a station to another. And every time I arrive, I get in on a station, whatever the music is, I gotta play trumpet on it and see if it matches. That was my video game when I was young, and that was one of the best. I mean, one of the things that were the most interesting for me when I was young, like just to match any kind of music. So whether it's Christian, church music, gospel, jazz, rock, hard rock, hip hop, pop music, singing, world music, Greek, I don't know what, every time I had to match something with my trumpet. It should work. It had to work, you know? And that was my way to connect to the world that I couldn't see yet.
Amazing. Well, talking about your whole trumpet playing, it is very similar to someone singing, right? A very unconventional
Yeah.
technique where you sing literally through your instrument. It feels like you have an actual voice. And that is a quality that you're able to bring in as an instrumentalist, right? That is your voice. So could you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think it all comes from the fact that I need to be connected to the world. And the chance that we have as instrumentalists, is that there are no words. So since there are no words, there's not one specific culture that it's speaking to.
Yeah.
My music, Adi, one of the nicest things you said, that you when you listen to my music, you really enjoy it and it speaks to you.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm composing music and I'm 15 or 20 in my room, I wouldn't expect, but I would dream, but I wouldn't expect that someone from the other side of the planet might listen to it and understand it, And so now, of course, it's my job now. It's my life, It's my career, and I'm building my life with this. But still, I'm still this little boy trying to connect to all the people in the world. Besides the fact that we might not speak the same language, but we can have the same hearts. We can feel the same way.
Yeah.
And that's why for me it was very interesting when I was young to learn all the songs and music from all over the world. And I don't know, I know that sometimes the cultures might not always I hope I will not say anything wrong, but like when I was young, one of my favorite voices was Ghulam Ali, for
Oh,
example.
wow.
you know
Wow.
Yeah, I used to listen to it. I remember even a song, Awarigi. Ye
Mm,
dil ye pagal dil mera, yo in pushi gaya awarigi. And this kind of stuff. Or when I listen to something that is completely different, like someone like Sid Sriram, for example. I
mm,
love the way this guy sings
mm,
and the mix he makes between the different styles and the pop and all this. I like this. I think it's very interesting, to when you listen to this, it feeds you. So when I play, I might, even without even doing it on purpose, bring something in my music that belongs to this.
mm,
And this
mm.
is a connection. This is like a common point between you and me. It's and this is why I do music.
Yeah, yeah. And let's talk a little bit about the aspect of performance. So, before a performance, what are your pre performance rituals? How do you prepare a few hours before the concert? How do you prepare yourself?
Um, Usually I do sports. I need to do sports, running and exercising and stuff, just to be healthy.
Hmm.
I don't drink or smoke or anything like that. I try to take care of my health, and one of the most important thing for me is to be surrounded by people I really love
Yeah.
and people who care. Basically. So the musicians and the people who work with me and tour with me are people I love. It's like part of my family.
Mm.
It's not anymore just team with musicians and technicians. It's like my family. It's the people I tour with, the people I live with.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's it's not a ritual, but it's something that is very important for me, to be only surrounded by people like this who care, who have empathy, people who
Mm.
have this deepness in
Yeah.
them,
Yeah.
who so basically, that's all. And all the rest is just, I have always my instruments with me, composing, calling my children, talking to them,
Yeah.
trying to help, especially now since 2 years, but mostly this year, trying to help as much as I can with what's happening in the Middle East and especially
Mm.
in Lebanon,
Correct.
sending money, doing work with NGOs,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, just trying to make the world just a little bit better if possibly, if possible.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, what happens at the end of a concert, right? Is there a feeling of catharsis that it's over, and then there's a release of tension from within you, or a satisfied, quiet fulfillment? What happens?
Um, I've been touring for 25 years
Yeah,
nonstop.
yeah,
So my experience of concerts, and I even started even earlier because I started touring with my father. I was 8 and 9 years old. So
yeah, yeah.
being on stage is definitely one of the places where I feel the most myself.
Mm,
I'm more myself on stage than anywhere else.
mm,
I don't really know why, but I think
yeah,
it's because I've been there so much,
mm,
and
mm,
I like it. I think I like it. I like expressing myself, and. So when I go off stage, there are two different feelings that I don't like so much. The first one is that I have to go off stage and then again try to be me
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
as if I was on stage, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
So it's not always easy because I'm a cool man, but I can be very sad, especially these days, for example, And when you're on stage, you don't have to be sad. You have to bring only positive energy.
yeah,
So I use this sadness on stage to bring something that helps as much as possible. So when I go on stage, I feel helpless, like I cannot do anything anymore because I'm just myself with I'm not anymore with the people with who I can connect and change the world. So it's kind of frustrating. And the other feeling is that I only remember the mistakes I made. So
yeah,
my adrenaline, you say,
Yeah, yeah.
it takes few hours before going down.
Okay.
So during this phase, usually I try to spend it with my friends, with my
Yeah,
team,
yeah.
with with people I played with, and sometimes I go outside and talk with the people, sign albums or do photos and things like this when the people they ask for it, and it takes maybe 3 hours, 3 or 4 hours before I really calm
Yeah,
down
yeah.
and I can actually sleep. Yeah.
Amazing, amazing. In terms of the learning experience, you've definitely had a very intimate learning experience from your father. And in today's day and age, there are virtual classrooms or, a lot of other teaching methodologies involved when it comes to learning an instrument like the trumpet. So, how would you rate the different learning methodologies, the old school, aspects along with the modern aspects and the practicality of them?
um uh, my father's education on trumpet
Hmm.
was based on his experience,
Yeah,
and I have to say, it's not because it's my father, but really my father's experience of life and trumpet is unique, and is an example for me, and I think it should be for many others. um, and when you know my father's life, how he struggled to become a trumpeter,
yeah.
and what he has been through
Hmm.
to make it possible, and how he practiced trumpet and what was his way to practice trumpet, you understand that definitely this was the best way possible on earth. And and this is what he taught me. You have people, who play wonderfully when they are already at a young age, and they enter to the best schools before even being 18 years old or 15 years old,
Hmm.
and they have facilities, and it's so easy for them, and people think they are geniuses, and they grow up being like the talent, and da da da. My father is exactly the contrary. He was a poor farmer in the Lebanese mountain,
Yeah,
no money, nothing. He didn't know even what a trumpet was. He saw a trumpet. It reminded him the fanfares in his village a few years ago. He took the trumpet, so he was 22. He tried to play. He liked it, but he wasn't good at it. So he went to Beirut and he asked, "Hey, is there anyone here who knows how to play this instrument?" And there was one guy in the whole country in Lebanon, one guy who knew how to play a little bit of trumpet and trombone and tuba. And he said, "Hey, come on, I'm gonna teach you a few things." And that was in Beirut Conservatoire. And then my father fell in love with a German woman who was studying flute in Beirut's conservatoire. And at that
nice.
time, you need to know that at that time, Beirut was a very beautiful city, and
Yeah,
Lebanon was a wonderful country. It wasn't
yeah.
at all what we see now, unfortunately. And then they had a love story, and then she left him because she said she has to go marry in Germany. So
Hmm.
she left him, and he was so frustrated. And she used to tell him, "If you want to play trumpet, this is not the place where you should learn. You
Yeah.
have people in Europe who are extremely beautiful and
Hmm.
talented musicians. You should go to Europe. There is some guy called Maurice André. He's the big, big, big star right now. You should go there." Da,
Mm,
da, 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 da,
mm.
da. So when she left him, he was 23 years old,
Wow.
and he was so sad. No money. He doesn't speak French. He didn't even go to school in Lebanon. So he barely writes and reads Arabic. And no money. No, he doesn't play trumpets. And he has this dream of becoming a great trumpet player, a great classical musician. You know, and he takes a boat,
Hmm.
goes to France with a boat with no
Okay.
money, nothing. Doesn't speak French, nothing. He doesn't play trumpet, and he says, "I want to learn with the biggest star of trumpet, whose name is
Mm.
Maurice André."
Mm.
7 years later, he indeed entered the class of Maurice Rondré in the highest conservatoire in the world at that time. So
Wow.
what happened during these 7 years, once he arrived in France and once he graduated from the conservatoire,
Mm.
that these 7 years was the best experience ever. And this is what
Mm.
he told me. So, on my opinion, just to sum it up, I think I got the best education and the best musical education I could ever have on trumpet.
Super.
So, all other trumpeters in the world, I
Mm.
love when I hear them
Yeah.
playing,
Yeah.
but I based all my technique and my musicality and my sound and my research of art, I based it all on my father's experience.
Amazing. Amazing.
Mm.
Your wife, as you rightly said, is an equally accomplished singer. So, in
Yeah.
what ways is your wife your teacher or guru?
Depending if she's gonna see this video or not.
Yeah.
um, my wife is an amazing woman. She's a very powerful woman who leads pretty much everything in our lives right now.
Mm.
Um, I think she has something to share with the world. And once, I mean, now she was living in Lebanon and she was doing all this from Lebanon. And now, like, the
Mm.
situation is not so good. And because also we married, of course, she traveled to France and now she's starting a new life, in Europe. Um, Being a singer in Europe is not the same than being a singer in Lebanon.
Correct.
And when I see how she's thinking about this and how the way she's changing, the way she is adapting, that teaches me a lot. I didn't have to do this ever. I didn't need to do this. I was born in Lebanon, but I lived all my life in Europe, in
Mm.
France,
Mm.
and I never had to change 180 degrees from a direction to another. Everything happened in a very natural way in my life,
Yeah.
musically speaking. But I'm seeing how she is doing, and she's an example for me because I'm seeing her doing it live every day.
Mm.
All the
Mm.
struggle, all the struggle of every day, questioning, how will I be ever how will I ever be able to do this again? What chances am I gonna be offered to sing this way
Yeah.
since I'm not anymore in Lebanon? So what are the things I have to do to be understood in this new country and in this new culture and all this? She's asking it to herself, but she's asking me too in the same time, and so we have conversations. And when I see how she's coping with this struggle, I admire her hugely.
Amazing. A lot of phenomenal musicians have reached out to men of faith, right? Do you have someone like that?
I was raised in a way to have a radar,
Mm-hmm.
and I connect directly with the people who have empathy.
Mm.
And usually, the people who have empathy, they have always the right words. You know. So when I'm in a situation where I'm feeling not comfortable or in an awkward situation or something, I always follow the people who understand the situation, who have empathy, and I trust them. And I always try to, to go towards um, this kind of people. I think that um, spirituality is all about empathy because spirituality teaches you to understand. It teaches you to be patient. It teaches you to choose the right moments. You know, spirituality is like looking at yourself in a mirror and say, "Hey, have I been good? Did I say the right thing? Did I harm someone? Am I good enough? Am I a good person? This is what I call spirituality, is when you look at yourself and you just close your eyes and you think, did I do the right choices and all this? So when people think this way right beside you and help you with with honesty, to be good with yourself by asking the right questions, and have this momentum of you and yourself, and they help you with this. um I think these are the people that I could call my gurus, like, even if they are different every day, but I kind of see the same person, the same empathetic person.
Now let's talk a little bit about the creative process. So could you describe the creative process behind the trumpets of Michelangelo? Yeah.
So Thomas, Trumpets of Michel-Ange,
Mm-hmm.
um, is a project I had in mind for many, 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 many years, and I needed to be I needed to feel ready for it. I needed to feel myself
Mm.
enough mature to
Mm.
do it.
Mm. Mm.
It's one of my only albums recorded live, like with all the musicians in the same time, but also with people around us. That was the first time. So uh, it's we were all the musicians in the studio and people around us, and and I needed to have this feeling of a live show, like of a concert, and I wanted my music to sound not like a studio produced thing, but like something living with a heartbeat, you know. So that was the first time I did it. Like, it's the first time in all my discography that I do this, and I needed. I really wanted to do this for this specific music, and this took me a while before being confident enough to do this. Also, a big part of the music was composed when I was young. So some of the melodies were composed like 30 years ago or even more. And some of them were composed 7, 8, 10 years ago. And some few, nah, not many, but like one or two of them were composed last 2 years. So the music, even if it sounds the same, was composed in a very big range of years of time. And to unite it, it had to be played the same way, live with the same musicians, and produced exactly the same way. So that was a way for me to bring everything together. Um, the whole concept is a tribute to my heritage.
Mm.
The trumpet that my father invented, this quarter
Yeah.
tone trumpet,
Yeah.
his life, of course, but not only, also the influence of these fanfares in Lebanon. There used to be fanfares everywhere in the world, and I know
Yeah.
even in
Yeah.
India there you have very beautiful fanfares and stuff. But in Lebanon, when they brought the European and French instrument to Lebanon, during the French mandate, uh, they didn't really teach them how
Mm.
to play the instruments. So the people just used to play, but were not really taught how to play it. So they used to play the Western melodies,
Mm.
but also they tried to play the Arabic melodies. But in the Arab music, you have quarter tones, and they couldn't play the quarter tones. So when they were singing it, they were singing it the right way. But when they were playing it on the instruments, it was not good. It was false. It was the wrong notes because there wasn't the quarter tones.
Mm.
So my father's invention, it's like a revolution
Mm.
in the brass world.
Yeah.
He brought the quarter tones on the brass instruments,
Mm-hmm.
which is amazing, And so the whole album is about this, how the transmission from a generation to the next generation. So my grandfather used to play in this fanfare. He's actually in the picture.
Yeah. Yeah.
The picture of the fanfare. He's actually
Album
in the
artwork.
picture. He's
Yeah.
one of the
Yeah.
guys.
Oh,
Yeah, the
nice.
album artwork.
Nice.
Yeah, he's the third one from on the top line. He's the third one from the left. If
Nice.
you want to see if he looks like me,
Yeah.
I look like him. So my father inherited it from this culture, but he tried to do better. He
Yeah.
tried to bring something new to to help, in a way, music to get better. So and then he taught me how to play this instrument. I'm trying to do my best, to bring something new also. But I respect my heritage, and I try to do something with this and give it to the next generations. And now on stage, you have people with me who play, who are my students.
Yeah.
And there's even a guy whose name is Nizar. Nizar, he used to come to my shows when he was 8 and 9 years old with his mother, and I
Okay.
remember him very well. And he used to say, "I want to play with like you when I will grow up. I want to play classical music, and I want to play the Middle Eastern influences and the quartet and all this." And I looked at him; he was 8 or 9, and I looked at him and I said, "Look, I did Paris Conservatoire. So if you want to study and if you want to play like me, you need to and study hard." So now, 10 years later, he entered the Conservatoire in Paris. He's a high class musician, and he's playing quartet trumpet, and he's playing with me in my band. So
Super.
there is something, about the evolution, about the transmission between generations, and that's what this album is all about.
Nice.
And one day, when I was 7 years old, and I said to my father, "Hey, I want to play trumpet." He gave me this weird trumpet with a quarter tone with a fourth valve, and I said, "No, I want a normal trumpet. I don't want this thing." And he looked at me and he said, "Ibrahim, when you will grow up, you will see that all the trumpet players in the world, they play this instrument that I invented. Don't you want to play it?" So I said yes. And 30 years later, I have this trumpet, and I look at the people in the world, and I'm the only one playing this trumpet. So my father is 85 now, and I really want him to see his dream coming true. So this album, the whole academy, because I did a trumpet academy called the International Trumpet of Michel-Ange Academy. So I teach people for free in this academy.
Wow.
Yeah. And I tell them, if you have this trumpet and you have the lessons for free and you're good enough, whenever you want, you can come on stage and play with us for free. And at all my shows in France and in Europe now, you have people who come, who I don't know, who have this trumpet, who studied with me in the academy or not, and they come on stage and they play with us in the show.
Super.
Yeah. So for me, I'm like giving this trumpet to the next generation, and I'm saying to my father, "Look, your dream is finally coming true."
Amazing. That's a very beautiful way of involving the entire world, and see his dreams come true in terms of playing this particular instrument.
Yeah.
What does it take to enroll in this academy? How do you invite a student to come and play this particular instrument?
Well, usually the people who got interested in this instrument, since we started this new adventure, most of them, there were people who were bragging me for years to teach them how to play the instrument. And every time I used to say, "Guys, I don't have any other trumpet than mine. So we have to wait that someone does the trumpet, and then I can show you." So finally, I found someone in France who was really, really talented, and we built this trumpet together. So we created a new brand called TOMA, Trumpets of Michel-Ange. It's a new brand of trumpet. And so now people call me and they say, "How can we get a trumpet?" I give them the phone number of the guy. They call him and they say, "We want to buy a trumpet." So they get the trumpet. And once they have the trumpet, they are automatically invited to join the group of the academy.
Yeah.
And once they have, once they are into this academy, I send them videos. I send them vocal voice notes. I send them music and scores, and sheets, and we meet sometimes, and we do lessons with everyone. And sometimes I take them in small groups, and all this is for free.
Wow.
And I teach them. and I teach. I give them everything I can.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I really hope that we have people from India who are willing to, participate and be part of this tradition. It would be great to have a
Well,
lot of talented Indians be a part of it.
you know, definitely if there are Indians who play trumpets,
Yeah,
oh my God! I mean, they can take this trumpet and play
yeah,
all
yeah.
the Indian ragas and all
Correct,
the stuff with all the
correct.
intonation and the quarter tones and all the
Yeah,
things on this
yeah.
trumpet. That would be just crazy, you know?
Correct, correct, correct.
Yeah.
You did mention about how universal your music appeal is. It's not kind of bound to a particular style or tradition. You like to keep it global and it has a universal appeal. So how do you decide whether genre or tradition? Like you said, you did something with rap music in your previous album, right? So how do you decide which genre or tradition will share or share the whole idea or shape a particular musical piece? Is it more of a conscious choice, or do you let the music flow naturally into all of these hybrids and you figure it out?
I think it's a question of personality.
Mm,
I've never been a follower,
mm,
never.
yeah,
Even in my youth, when I was
mm,
at school,
yeah,
when there was a like everyone thinking in a specific way, I was on every time. I was the guy saying, "Hey guys, but don't you think we should da 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 da?" I was always the one questioning. And when I'm working on my music,
mm,
if I feel that my music is going completely towards one direction, that
yeah,
scares me.
yeah,
I think, wait a second. Am I really wanting this? Or is it just an influence into this? And usually when I ask the question, I back up a little bit and
mm,
I,
mm,
I wait a second and I think about it. I reanalyze things. I rethink the things and I say, okay, yeah, it was just an influence. I
yeah,
didn't want to go that far. And then when I'm working, this happens all the time. I'm how do you say in English? I'm torn from all sides.
yeah,
I'm like I'm like trying to escape from here and escape from here and say it doesn't have to be too classical, it doesn't have to be too Arabic, it doesn't have to be too jazz, leave me alone, like just a little bit, don't give me too much. Then
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like, this way, and then at some point
yeah,
it really feels that it's me, because it's not too much of this or too much of this or too much of that. It's
mm,
just a little bit. It's like a small touch of things. It's like when you're painting. It's like when you're working on a painting and you don't want all of it to be red or all
mm,
of it to be blue, and it's
mm,
all about nuances. So it's just a
yeah,
little bit of this and a little bit of this and a little bit and then when you look and you go back and you look at it, it's a completely new color, and you,
yeah,
you wouldn't even imagine it would be this color, you wouldn't even think it's this color, but when you were working on it, you knew what you were doing,
mm,
because you didn't want too much of this or too much of that, you know
right, right,
so, I think this is the way I work on my musics, and that's
mm,
what brings it global. In a way, I don't do it on purpose. I think it's my
yeah,
personality. I
mm,
I I don't like being following the big mass of one specific color. I, I,
mm,
I wouldn't enjoy my music if it were like this.
yeah, yeah. And speaking of your collaborative process with Gregory Potter, what was it like working with Gregory?
Mm. Gregory is one of the most beautiful voices I've heard live.
Yeah.
And when we were in the studio, it was for
Mm,
Capacity to Love. So it was for my previous album,
mm,
the rap album, the hip hop album. And he came to the studio. We met a few years ago in Germany. He was the guy giving me the prize, the jazz prize I received in Germany, and I was like,
yeah.
wow, this is Gregory Porter. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So a few years later, and I went to pretty much all his concerts and shows in Paris every time he was
Mm,
in Paris. So
mm,
I'm a fan of his, and his voice touches me deep. So
nice.
when I contacted him and I said, "Man, I want to play something for you. Can we meet?" I was in Los Angeles. He
Mm,
he came. He drove 4 hours to join me to the studio, and once he arrived, I remember I told him many things about the album,
Yeah.
and I was speaking alone, like a monologue, and he was listening
Mm.
to me patiently,
Yeah.
for like 20 minutes. And I think I would like to do this, and I would
Yeah.
like to do this, and I think I can
Yeah.
imagine your voice doing this. And I was saying, and I was saying, yeah, and my album is about this, and it's about
Yeah.
this, and I want to speak about this, and I think we need it for the world. And then he looked at me, and when I finished speaking, he said, yes, basically, your album is about our capacity to love, with his deep voice like this, like. And I
Yeah.
looked at him, and he just like, he found the name of my album.
Yeah.
He's the guy
Wow.
who found the name of my album. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and then we went in the studio, and I said, but it's a rap album. And he looked at me and said, hey, don't forget, my first album was a rap album. I was like,
Mm.
wow, was it? I didn't know. you
Yeah.
know. And
Yeah.
then he went in the studio, and that was crazy. He said to me at first, let's try things, and then we will meet again to record it in another
Yeah.
day and all this. I was
Yeah.
like, okay, yeah. And then he went in front of the mic, and everything you hear was his first take.
Mm.
You know,
Wow. Wow.
and
Right on.
he blew our mind. He really
Yeah.
blew our
Yeah.
mind, and that was
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
That was it.
Crazy. Crazy.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the much awaited topic of interest, your India visit on the 29th of November at the Grand Theatre at the lovely, one of the best venues in the country, the Neeta Mukesh Ambani Cultural Center in Mumbai. So,
Mm.
could you talk about how big your contingent is going to be and what is the experience you're bringing for the people of my country?
We are approximately 10 people on stage. We
Mm.
we are 10 people on stage.
Wow, massive.
Yeah, we have fun. We have fun, but in a deep way,
Mm.
profound way.
Yeah,
The music is in the same time spiritual
yeah.
and very festive. We sing, we dance all together. We're gonna have fun. Um, well, right away when I go on stage, I will ask people to stand up and we're gonna dance. That would be our first step
Nice, nice.
over there. And yeah, and on my opinion, melodies
Mm.
are memories. So I really want the people to remember my memories and my melodies, And that's going to be the first time I play in India.
Yeah.
And as I told you, I've been touring for 25 years.
Mm.
So, and I really believe that there are lots of reasons that people in India really enjoy my music.
Mm.
We have so much in common.
Mm.
And in the same time, we are a little bit different.
Mm.
And that's cool, So I really believe that we have something to share. And I've always wanted to play in India.
Mm.
I've always thought about it as being one of the most important, you know, um, moments if it happens in my life.
Amazing.
Um, so yeah, I'm really, really, really looking forward to it and to be in Mumbai.
Well, like I can't wait for it, my friend. I would love to do like a part two of the interview live with you, if time permits,
Yeah,
before your tour. That would be
yeah, I'd
great.
love
That would
to.
be a dream come true and another important moment in my life, meeting you, right? The guy I've been listening to with my father on Quest TV for so many years
Oh
now, and
wow.
I finally finally get to see you, man. It's so surreal.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's so nice of you to say
yeah,
this. And
yeah,
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 it's a dream come true for me also to
yeah,
be connected to someone like you,
yeah,
who's a passionate of music, who knows about it, and
yeah.
who comes from this part of the world and says that he likes my music. It's also a dream come true for me. So it's an exchange between us, and that's cool.
Amazing, amazing. I'd like to come to
Yeah.
the last part of our agenda, which is a
Mhm.
very quick rapid fire. You can't think too
Okay.
much. You got to be very spontaneous with your answers, Ibrahim. All right?
Okay. I'll
All
try
right.
it.
First question for you. What is that one song that always makes you cry?
Léo Ferré. It's a French song called Avec le temps.
Okay. On the contrary,
I
what's your
cannot.
favorite? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I cannot listen to it without crying. Yeah.
Without crying? Okay. Okay. On the contrary, what's your favorite guilty pleasure song?
It's not a guilty pleasure song. It's one of the most beautiful songs in the world. It's
Mm.
Man in the Mirror of Michael Jackson.
Oh yeah, of course.
Mm, yeah.
That's in fact, I think you played. I think you played Human Nature on Quincy Jones. I think 60th birthday party.
Yeah.
Where yeah, I
It
remember
was
that.
80th
80th.
birthday.
Sorry, 80th.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
yeah,
and I
yeah.
played another song of Michael at the 90th birthday of Quincy at Hollywood Bowl.
Oh wow,
Mm,
wow.
yeah.
That was amazing. In fact, your fellow musician, Mr. Richard Bona, is also going to be playing with you at the Nita Mukesh Ambani Cultural Center. So, can
Yeah.
we expect a surprise duo performance of the two of you?
Look, we haven't been talking about it yet,
Okay.
but Richard is a musician I love, and
Yeah.
I know he appreciates me too. So who
Great.
knows? Let's
Yeah.
think about it.
Indeed. Indeed. That would be a total dream come true for a lot of Indian
Yeah,
audiences. Yeah. Yeah. So,
glad to meet you.
what form does God take for someone like you from your personal experience?
Ah, wow. And you want me to answer this without thinking too much? uh, um, I think, in a way, God is our self conscious.
Mm,
So when you look at yourself
yeah.
in the mirror and
Mm-hmm.
you say, I'm a good man, I did the good choices, I'm doing my best for my children or for my parents or for my audience or for that's what I call, God is in our inner, in my
Mm,
opinion.
mm,
And he's definitely somewhere else too, but it's also in our inner, it's in our nature. We are all of us somewhere, somehow, a part of God.
amazing. If you had to put together, hypothetically, an all star jazz fusion band together, you can pick
Mm.
an artist from any era, dead or alive. Who would you like to be a part of this, of Ibrahim Malouf's dream ensemble?
That's too big, man. That's too big. But let me answer you like let me answer your question without really answering it, but in the
Yeah,
same time I am answering it.
yeah.
During the COVID
Mm-hmm,
crisis,
mm-hmm,
I recorded an album called 40 Melodies, and I was
yeah.
actually celebrating my 40 years old.
Mm,
And I decided to do a duet album with my fellow friend and musician François Delporte, who's on the guitar and who's
mm-hmm,
going to be with us in Bombay.
mm-hmm,
And we did 40 melodies, and the 40 melodies are 40 melodies that I already recorded in my previous albums or movie soundtracks and all this.
yeah,
And I tried, not on all of them, but at least a third of the songs, of the musics, I tried to invite different people from different places in the world.
yeah.
Everyone was at home during this period, so they were all available. So, in this album, you have people like Sting or the Kronos Quartet
Wow.
or John Baptiste or, amazing artists. By the
Mm.
way, there's an Indian drummer, a percussionist. His name is Trilok Gurtu.
Of course, of course. Yeah,
Yeah, Trilok is also one of my
yeah.
guests, in this album.
Amazing.
And
Yeah,
so this is like,
yeah,
if I had the possibility to bring all these artists on one stage for
mm,
one show, that
mm.
would be just crazy,
Yeah, yeah,
that would
yeah.
be like a dream
Indeed.
band for my, you know. So
Yeah.
it's my way to answer you. Yeah.
Super, super. What's your favorite cuisine?
Um, I'm not gonna say tandoori or tikka masala or stuff like that because I love it, but I don't want to say it because it's gonna sound demagogic, like it would sound weird. So I would say Lebanese foods, which is true.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Lebanese food is great. It's also my personal favorite. Yeah,
Oh, is
yeah,
it?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Oh wow.
yeah.
Even the chicken tikka masala is not your favorite?
Not really. I like Lebanese food over a lot of Indian dishes. It's my comfort food. Yeah.
Oh wow,
Yeah,
it is for me too. But I sometimes I like to travel a little bit, and
yeah, yeah,
I like this creamy, spicy things that you do with rice,
yeah,
guys.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You're gonna have a lot of it very soon.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah. What are the top 5 records that you personally worked on and you're most proud of till date?
Oh, now that's one of the very difficult questions for me because yeah, it's like picking one of my children to say that's the one I prefer.
Mm.
That's just not possible for me to. But there are musics that I'm really proud of, but not because it's my favorite,
Yeah,
but because it connected people in a certain way. Like
got it.
let's say, for example, Beirut, a
Mm-hmm.
song called Beirut, or Red and Black Lights,
Yeah.
which speaks about the yin and yang of our personalities,
Uh huh. Uh huh.
um, or True Sorry, that is
Mm.
about redemption.
Mm-hmm.
Or if we talk about in my last album, there is a song called Au revoir, which means goodbye in
Mm.
French, that we will play in Bombay also. That
Super.
all these musics, they speak to me in a different way also because it says a lot about how human
Mm.
how we can be, how good we can
Yeah.
be,
Yeah.
and definitely it connects me to the world in a different way. There are songs that are, on my opinion, of course, really cool,
Yeah. Yeah.
but that don't have this ability to connect. That are maybe
Mm.
more
Mm.
specific.
Yeah. Got it. If you had to describe your experience being on Stalwarts of Music with Aditya Veera, how would you describe it?
Very thoughtful, very nice and easy. It's a conversation the way I like conversations to be led, which is no taboo, just speaking. There is a specific agenda, but we can sometimes go a little bit right, a bit left. That's fine, and then we go back on track. Um, um, and I think you're very smart because you know how to make people speak and reveal things. That can be personal by asking questions. That are really well chosen. And I think that that's the first time I actually do an interview with someone who smiles all the time from the beginning to the end of the interview, and that's really nice.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Means a lot coming from you. On that note, I have one last question for you, Ibrahim. Down in the distant horizon, what would you like to be remembered as?
Mm, wow. Uh, well, I just would love to be remembered, and that would be enough. you know, time, music, industry, music, and all this is so huge,
Yeah.
and there are more and more and more people on Earth. Less and less and less and less chances to be remembered, anyways. So at least if my family, my children's and grandchildren's and grandchildren still remember that there was a crazy guy creating music all his life just to connect people, and if they listen to the music and the melodies and they say, "Hey, that's a cool melody," that's enough for me.
Super. Thank you so
Yeah.
much, Ibrahim. It's been such an incredible blessing, honor, and a privilege to have you on the show.
Thank
This
you. It
this
was my pleasure.
interview will be additionally aired on Big FM Shillong and Aizawl, two incredible radio stations in the northeastern part of India. It'll be out on
Amazing.
my YouTube channel Aditya Veera 1994, and it'll be also streaming at a later point on all audio platforms. And I
Amazing.
really hope to do a live part 2 of this interview once you're in India, and I would love to meet you and talk to you, my friend. Once
Thank you
once
so
I
much. That
get to
would be
see
my
you.
pleasure, my honor.
Take care and have a great stay in Paris and rest of your tour.
Thank you, Adi. Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye bye.